Hi, my name is Esme,
And this is Limar.
and this is
Vent Away. Welcome back.
Welcome back. We are in episode 2.
Today we're going to be talking about social media.
You know, all the rage now. Who doesn't have like an Instagram or a Snapchat, Twitter, etc.
I don't know if you ever used it. MySpace? Have you ever
I
used that?
didn't use it, but I know about it. My sister, I have an older sister, right? So she used MySpace and she's always talking about how she used to like decorate it and like all the things you could do on MySpace.
Yeah, I've never used it either, but like I keep hearing it that was the Instagram of back then.
Right, like it was MySpace and then you had Facebook kind of come along. And then after Facebook, it was Instagram and then Snapchat and now
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like TikTok is the biggest one there.
Yeah, I guess Facebook is like the longest social media platform that people are still holding on to,
Yeah,
right?
because it feels like Facebook's kind of been here a good like amount of time. Like it's old, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still there.
And I only use it to just contact my family in the Philippines. Literally,
Yeah,
that's
same
it.
here. I use it to contact family back in El Salvador.
That's it. Like for Facebook, honestly though, Facebook is just for not want to say old people, but it's for people that just cannot keep up with Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or
Right,
any
it
of
feels
that.
like an older generation kind of app.
That's also the best way to post. That's when stories never existed back
Mhm.
then. Back then you didn't have word counts like Twitter. They didn't last 24 hours. You could actually edit the description unlike TikTok,
Right. I
you know?
personally myself, I don't really post a lot um like on anything, really. On Instagram, like if you go on my
Mhm.
Instagram, it's just like very few posts. I haven't posted since like graduation for high school.
Mhm.
Snapchat is very rare for me to post, only because sometimes I forget I have a Snapchat. TikTok, I've just never
I only
posted.
do it for the streaks.
I've never posted on TikTok.
I just remember back when I was a kid, I used to post every single day like it was a spam.
Oh my god, I remember. I remember like being young and feeling like I had to post something cuz it was like you have like social media for a reason. So it's like if you don't post,
Mhm.
like why do you even have it?
At the same time, you didn't have a care in the world who was watching, who was posting, who was commenting. Like, you cared a little bit, but like, you weren't aware of like your face. Like, back then, when social media wasn't all about getting the most followers or getting the most like or comments, it wasn't all about the numbers like that.
Mm, yeah,
You
I
know
get
what I
what you
mean?
mean. Like it was like you were posting because you felt good, like if you felt good in a picture,
Mm-hmm.
you were going to post it cuz
It still happens now, but like increased awareness, I guess.
it really did. And especially when you're like like for example like our age, where you're using social media, you're kind of in this like weird in between of like you're not necessarily like adult, but you're not like a teenager anymore. You're kind of just sitting at
Mm-hmm.
20 with people who are either mature and people who haven't matured. And that really reflects on like social media. Like you have those people who will
Yeah.
comment or like post really like dumb stuff, and then you have the people who use their
Mm-hmm.
social media for good, or stuff like that.
Like I said before, I used to post a lot of stuff on Instagram. But then when I became like aware, I decided to make like a spam or what people call a
Mm-hmm.
finsta because I really wanted to post where I was comfortable around with the circle of friends that I found were genuine and just the ones that I felt that were not gonna judge me
Right.
whatever I do.
Right. And I kind of like how now Instagram has that like feature for the close friends, because it's like now
Yeah, I really
now
do.
you
I
don't have
like
to
that.
bother with the whole idea of a spam, because you could just do it like on your main account, but just like
Mm-hmm.
on your but on your stories, like post what you don't want everyone to see. I like that feature, because it's like you post the
Yeah.
things you only know your real circle is gonna like.
And I think like posting in front of just strangers, right? Or even just acquaintances from school or work or anything like that. Sometimes I just don't feel comfortable enough to post when they're around, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I would usually post on close friends or Finsta. I want to be an open book, but at the same time, I gotta keep it with, you know, the circle of people
Right.
that I actually
Right.
trust.
Like there's certain people, on your in your online community, that you want to share these things
Mm-hmm.
that are happening in your life. You want to share, just your life in general, but you don't want to share with
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Like you just want that
Yeah.
circle. Because I remember
Or you're scared about what they're gonna say.
yeah, like I remember when you told me to make a spam, there I was going through like my list of friends and I was like, okay, who would I actually want on this spam? And it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
moments like that where you come to realize that your online community, can sometimes it's just not what you really want it to be. Where it's
Mm-hmm.
like you have like all these followers, but how many of these followers do you are you actually like friends with? How many do you actually interact with? How many of them
Yeah.
do you feel like you're going to be able to post and not be judged negatively?
Yeah. And at the same time, I also kind of made a mistake for myself at the time when I was adding people on my spam. You know, I just was adding people that I felt close with, but then when the class ended or, a few months passed by, it's like, you stop talking. So it
Mhm.
kind of like made me realize, you got to add the people that stick with you, you know?
Right.
And I added people that I thought knew me or, that or I wanted to know them more, or that I felt close with. But then a few months passed by, or and then you just stop talking. It's like, oh, what a it's a shame.
Yeah. It really is. When I felt like that became a big thing, kind of how we were talking about in our last episode with the whole COVID thing.
Mhm.
It felt like that transition from in-person school to online school,
Uh huh.
really showed, through social media who was really like your friend and who really wasn't kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cuz it was like in high school you could talk to anyone. Like if
Mhm.
they were in your class, it was free game to talk to them. But
Mhm.
then online school, it was like you had to actually put in the effort to look for someone on there,
Mhm.
you know? Like you had to
Yeah.
physically look for them, message them, and actually reach out to them. And a lot of people I feel like didn't want to go through that effort anymore.
But also when it comes to social media, you can easily fake anything. You
Mm-hmm.
can.
Yeah. Like nowadays, we look at social media and we look at, people on the internet. For example, like we can take, an example like influencers.
Mhm.
You see these influencers and you think they have this great life. You think they have this, they have their money and they have their houses and cars and whatnot,
Yeah.
But like then you have like those people who are like, oh, we're gonna expose them, and then you see how they're truly living, and it's like they weren't that person they present themselves on social media.
Yeah.
And and we can even take it to just like not even as people as big as influencers, just people in general. You could present
Mhm.
yourself as anything online, and you could
Mhm.
present yourself to be
True.
anyone. It's like on here I could tell people I'm anything. And
Yeah.
I can choose to make people believe that I'm something else, knowing that I'm not, you know?
Yeah. You can easily manipulate anything on social media.
Yeah, like the narrative is free game. Once you're on
Mhm.
the internet, your narrative can be anything you choose it to be,
But like you said, at some point, people will get exposed for what they are.
right?
But sometimes, people get exposed for either for the wrong things or things that they did in the past. Cancel culture. They're gonna get canceled for. It's just, cancel culture has reached to a point where anyone can get blamed or canceled for anything.
Yeah, I agree. Like nowadays, you see, it's like every other day someone is getting canceled for something they either did in their past, or some people, yeah, because of stuff they did now, but for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people there was a period of time, I feel like, especially during the pandemic, where
Yeah.
a lot of celebrities and a lot of influencers were getting canceled for things they did, like so many years ago. Again, things they possibly already even apologized for.
Mm-hmm.
Some things I do have to agree, they were rough, and they were probably, it was better to expose them out to the world than to,
Yeah.
keep them in. But there was some things that it was like, okay, they were mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe this wasn't as bad as we're kind of firing it up to be.
Yeah, at the same time, you kind of have to be held accountable for the actions you made in the past. So I do agree with you that there are certain conditions and situations where that person does deserve to get canceled or, exposed for whatever they did.
Right. It's kind of just brings up the question, like, where do we draw the line in cancel
Mm-hmm.
culture? Like, what is going too far and what is not doing enough, kind of. I say it especially like in the perspective of a woman. One of the biggest like issues I seem to think, is hard is those like beauty standards you see online.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I say it in the perspective of like a woman, and a girl growing up to be a woman on social
Yeah.
media in a world of technology and social media, where
Mm-hmm.
it was like all the time you see these beauty standards, like you see these models, you see what is, the most fashionable thing now, what you should
Yeah.
look like, because of these beauty standards. And I feel like social media, is good for its reasons. You can contact family long distance, you can have contact with friends, when especially
Mm-hmm.
like right now when the pandemic happened, social media was big in keeping people in contact. But I feel like at the
Yeah.
same time as social media is, has these benefits, it has these like downfalls,
Oh, yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm.
and some
It
of
has
them
its
are like,
drawbacks for sure.
yeah, some of them are bigger than, others and whatnot. Like, no, some, social media, like I said, has its benefits, but it can also be a very dangerous place. I don't know if you remember, like, there was that whole time where like people were challenging, what was it called? It was called like the Blue Whale Challenge, where
What's that?
it was like a whole thing at some point. Like, I remember it even coming out on the news, where it was like this challenge, and at some point it would like make you hurt yourself. And for some people,
Oh.
it was even like the final challenge was like to kill themselves.
No,
Yeah,
because ever since TikTok like existed, there have been these stupid challenges everywhere.
yeah,
Like putting a penny in the socket, like
yeah.
in
Like,
the plug socket. And then there was the devious lick challenge. I don't know if you've heard of that,
yeah, I
where
do remember
people
that. Yeah,
would lick what part of the bathrooms?
like they would just lick anything. I remember there was
Yes.
also like a point. There was a challenge where it was like stealing. It was like stealing stuff, and it was just like to see who could steal the biggest thing. And I remember at some point they
Oh
were
my
like,
god. Mhm.
at I think at the high school we went to, they sent out a message because of that challenge, because they said there was like significant property damage done
Ooh.
to the school, and that if it kept going they just weren't going to be able to afford to fix all
And
of it. Like, they said it was
oh
thousands
my
of
god.
dollars worth of property damage. Yeah, like it was insane.
And for the trends that I've seen so far, there was, those TikTok videos where people go to a store like Walmart or Target, they bring a microphone with them and ask them a question, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, what's your name about this? There was this one person, I think you've seen this one as well. There was this one person who went to Walmart and purchased a pair of AirPods, and
Right.
he told the person that got the AirPods, right? Because you know how they lock the AirPods and stuff in like a
Yeah.
cabinet. He asked the person, "Can I pay for it up front?"
Right.
As long as he never paid for it. So he went up to an old lady who was minding her business, and he went up to her and he was like, "You want these AirPods for free?" And
Right.
the old lady seemed so nice. She was genuinely happy that she got these AirPods. But then, as they left the store, the security thing rang. When you go past the
Right, like
exit
the
doors.
little alarm.
Yeah, and they found, the unpaid AirPods to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt bad for that old lady because she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know that the interviewer, the guy,
For the AirPods.
never paid for the AirPods. So he cannot claim that it was his, or it was for free because it was
Because
never
they
paid
weren't paid
for.
for in the first place. Yeah.
And now that old woman is in trouble, from what I've heard, because of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that some of these pranks that I've been seeing for these several months, they've gone way too far.
Yeah, some of the stuff you see on social media nowadays, like I feel like it just goes a little too far considering how young of an audience a lot of these like apps and
Uh
websites
huh.
have, you know? Like it's gone to the point where they're showing like incredibly graphic stuff.
And at some point, they're even proud of it.
Yeah, and they're proud of it, and like it's like I get, your liberty to post whatever you want or whatever it is, but you also have to take into consideration the audiences that are on these apps, you know?
Mm hmm. Literally think before you post.
Yeah, literally think before you post. And I feel like that's another thing
Uh
people
huh.
forget is just the fact that you post it and it's there. It's going to be there
Yeah.
forever.
With social media evolving and everything, is there advice you would give to anyone listening, or even to ourselves who might be even listening to this now, or in 10 years or something like that? What advice would you have to give them?
I think like one of the biggest things to keep in mind when it comes to the topic of social media is to just be careful. Like be careful who you're talking to on social media, be careful what you're posting, and be careful of what you share, because as much as we want to feel like everyone on social media, like, oh, nothing bad is going to happen to me because, what are the chances of something bad happening to me, that we should always take the time to just be careful. There's a lot of dangerous people on social media who don't necessarily always want the best for you. So like it's those people.
I wish we lived in a world where it was like that,
Hmm.
people wouldn't talk to you because they need your information, not people would actually talk to you not because they need your credit card number or your social security number or your address or even money from you.
Like for example, for like young girls, there's a lot of predatory people out there.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it's always a good idea to just kind of be careful of that kind of stuff because
Mhm.
it's so dangerous out there.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for listening to the second episode of our podcast. We hope you can stay tuned to future episodes, and yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to episode 2, and we hope to see you here again next week. On the next episode of Vent Away, we will be talking about women's and just overall the life of a woman and the struggles of a woman. See you
Yeah,
then.
you're gonna have the mic on that one, okay?
I know I am.